part of it, was a piece of it, was having abandonment issues. But you took it to a whole different, many different levels. Would you touch on our inner child and what our inner child is and cosmic abandonment, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so cosmic abandonment is the condition of the human consciousness. So even if a person was never abandoned and they had two emotionally available parents, they will still have deep within the recess of their psyche cosmic abandonment because that is the condition of the human consciousness. So what that means is that well, actually, it comes from a few angles because how Masonic thought and really just ancient teachings that are being revived in the new age right now in general, they're all centralized around this theme of humanity being some engineered race that was then abandoned by their creators. That's not where I'm coming from. That's just a very strong narrative that's very deep inside this age, and it's very deep inside, as I said, Masonic thought. And I used to think that too when I was taught that, and I have grown out of that really ridiculous belief system that we're this engineered race that we needed to mine gold and precious metals for this other alien creator race. That's just absolute nonsense once you get to a certain level of spiritual awakening. But that is a very strong narrative that is pretty much taken over the thought forms. And so that is where this stems of the origins of cosmic abandonment, where it comes to we were an engineered race that was then left behind. And due to that, we have deep within us this wounded abandonment from knowing at a body, mind, spirit level that we were at one point created and then abandoned. Now, what I have in common, what I agree with at least in that theme is that, yeah, we all have what we would consider an abandonment issue that's of a cosmic nature, but I don't view it through that inland Enki type narrative. I view it more through the sense of abandonment from the light, which is what I see also very strongly intertwined with a worship gene that has taken over humanity. So it's this spiritual amnesia that's been placed on the human identity, the human consciousness so strongly that we are so separate from our source that we feel abandoned because that's what separation consciousness, that's what disconnection from our true self, right? When we're in spiritual amnesia, we're disconnected from our true self. We're in amnesia. As an amnesiac state, it is just, it is completely correspondent to abandonment because it's the ultimate form of soul loss. When you're in spiritual amnesia, that is the strongest form of soul loss. You don't remember your true identity. And I'm talking like layers worth because we're multidimensional. So I could say your true identity and give you one portion of that. And that wouldn't be all of it. I see people do that a lot. They say like one portion, your true identity, which is, and then they say something and it's like, yeah, that's true, but there's more. So it's multidimensional at that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I never even thought about the Anunnaki stories, the Sumerian tablets, has been cosmic abandonment. I never even thought about that, but and then that's a part of the story. But yeah,
That's what Masonic thought. I'm talking about like, the 33 degrees type Masons. That's what they learned.
you also talk, and this is getting popular, but most people that I know don't even know what this is, but they heard of it called shadow work. What's the importance of shadow work, and what is shadow work?
Yeah, and that just reminds me, you also asked about the inner child and cosmic abandonment. So the inner child is an aspect of the shadow. What the shadow is a composite character. We call it the shadow for the sake of us needing a term to relay something that is more than one entity. So it's a composite character. It's not just one thing, but the shadow being that composite character now, what shadow work is interacting with this composite character. So if we're interacting with this composite character and our wish is to either heal it, transmute it, become aware of it, embody it, integrate it, people will, if you ask each person what their goal is with that, they will say some variation of the things I just mentioned. Interacting with the shadow is always done kind of like by looking at a mirror. So the mirror shows you something about what's going on beyond you in the back of your head, right? Or what's going on behind you. That's what that shadow work is like that. It's learning because you can't directly perceive your shadow. You can start directly perceiving your shadow. I don't want to gaslight your audience. You can directly perceive your shadow by just becoming aware. But once you start getting to certain layers of your shadow work is strongest, and all the different methods for it are done in that illustration I just gave, where you can't perceive it directly. So it's almost like looking through a mirror to see what's behind you. You have to use certain techniques to become aware of things at that point. This is obviously at a point where once you've had direct awareness of something, that's been exhausted and no more can be incurred through direct awareness.
I have a weird vision right now. I'm thinking of a meme when you said that with the mirror, and it shows a guy taking a selfie, and there's a mirror in back of him, and then it shows his butt crack. Sorry, but that's what came to mind when you were saying that. Sorry.
Nice. Yeah. And then you see your butt crack and you go,
Yeah.
damn, that's ugly.
I heard you also, because I watched a lot of your episodes and I love them. The male and the female energies, and it's even in the Gospel of Thomas, which I was grateful that you showed. When the two become one, Jesus says you enter the kingdom of heaven. What is the masculine energy and the female energy? What are those, and how do we make those into one?
Yeah. And so that's probably the strongest quote that Yeshua had ever been accredited for saying. And it's longer than that, but it really is like a blueprint. And if we're at base consciousness and we're looking at that quote and we might not understand it, it could be taken completely out of context. So the masculine principle, if we go all the way back to its like most nebulous or macrocosm meaning, would be thought. It would be the construct of order, the organizing principle. It has so many different attributes and qualities to it. But the masculine principle at this level that I'm speaking to right now would be thought, and therefore the fruits of healthy thinking, which would be logic. It would be critical analysis. It would be the ability to organize chaos. And then so it would be it's what's known in the occult teachings as the left hemisphere of the body mind spirit, the left hemisphere of the brain specifically. And then you have the right hemisphere of the brain, which is the feminine principles, and this is represented through the limbic system. It's known as the mother. It's also known as the Holy Spirit. There's so many different names. The more important a principle is, the more names they have. And so the feminine principle would be emotion. But at an even higher level than emotion, it would be conscious sentience. It would be sentience so strong that there's a hidden universal principle just for the feminine principle, and that's called care. Have you heard of the cremation of care ceremony? Have you ever seen a giant owl statue that a bunch of people go around in Sonoma, California?
I haven't, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah.
Sorry.
So there's this thing called the Bohemian Grove. You might look it up
Oh,
now,
oh,
but
oh,
yeah.
oh. An owl. I thought you meant the letter owl. You're talking about
Oh,
the
no,
owl.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
I've
I
definitely
felt
seen
that
that.
you knew
Yeah,
what I was
yeah,
talking about, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't going to be like, no, you know what I'm talking about. I could
yeah,
totally
yeah,
feel that you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Of course, for sure.
Yeah, that owl. Okay, so that's the cremation of care ceremony.
Mm.
That is a whole ritual just to strip and disconnect human consciousness from the feminine principle of care. Because care is the most powerful concept in all of existence, but I won't get into that. So, the feminine principle, let's just bring it back down into human form now, is emotion, or at the very least, a spiritual sentience. So, you have thought, sentience, and then there's always a trinity. What those birth is right action, or what's known as wisdom. But when a human consciousness is able to no longer oppose their emotional body, repress or suppress their emotional body, their emotional reality and identity, and they've balanced it with their mental body, with their logic, with their reasoning, with their discernment. What you get is that equilibrium, and that equilibrium is known in alchemy as eros gamos, the sacred marriage of the masculine and feminine, or what we just know in common terms today as good old fashioned enlightenment.